Good morning, everybody. I wasn't real happy with the ciabatta bread last night, kind of declaring it a fail when all is said and done, so I'm having another go of it. So let's talk about the first thing that you need to do it the right way. You need to start the night before with something called a pulish. You start the night before because this allows the batter, the wet dough, to ferment and gather a lot of flavor, as opposed to doing it just the day of that you want to eat. So I started last night with 1.5 cups. Let's see, I don't know if we're going to be able to focus that, but I'll read it. 1.5 cups of bread flour, 1 cup of water, just slightly under 1 cup of room temperature water, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of instant yeast. And I let that sit, whip that all together. It was a very wet batter, and I covered that and let that set overnight. Then I took 2 2/3 cups of bread flour today, 1 cup of lukewarm water, 2 teaspoons of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of instant yeast. And I'm combining that together now, right here. So I'm working on that now. Okay, we're going to need to get that all combined. Now that I'm going to combine this, it's going to take about 10 minutes until this sort of pulls away from the side, and it's going to be soft, wet, and sticky, much like a batter. Then I'm going to coat the inside of a large bowl with non-stick spray or olive oil and transfer this dough into that bowl to let it rise for an hour. So I'll see you when I've done that part. After about 10 minutes of kneading, you can see that it has a nice shine to it, and even though it's a wet dough, it is pulled away from the side. It's now time to transfer it into the bowl. I have a bowl over here. It's going to rise for an hour or so, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do with it then. So there it is in the bowl. We'll see you guys in an hour. Once your dough is risen, you want to turn it on itself, as I'm doing here. You pull back and pull it to the middle, then turn the bowl, pull the other side to the middle, turn it 90 degrees, pull the other to the middle, turn it 90 degrees again, and then very as gently as you can, try to turn over the dough like that. You can probably do a little, I was a little ham-fisted there, but get it turned over on its top to the bottom, and do this 3 times every 45 minutes. Make sure you cover it between so it doesn't dry out. Over time, you'll get used to working with a wet dough. 45 minutes later, I greased the pan here, and as carefully as I could. You don't want to deflate this. That's one of the keys with the ciabatta bread. You want to retain as much volume as possible. You don't want it to deflate. So I very carefully kind of poured it out of the bowl and onto the greased sheet here. I put some flour on top. I'm going to pop a little more on there. Let that just look like that. And now we're going to let that rise the final time. I've turned the oven on to about 400 degrees here, and I'll get back to you on what the exact temperature needs to be, but I'm bringing it up to temperature. Now I do use a baking stone, and I'm going to set this, it should be 450 degrees, and put an iron skillet in, because you should create steam when you bake the bread. It'll slow down the setting of the crust, and you'll get much more spring. So we're going to let that come up to temperature, preheating the oven. And then when it's time to put the bread in, I'm going to dump a couple cups of ice cubes in there. I'm also going to spray the top of the loaf, and that'll help slow down the formation of the crust and give you maximum oven spring. If you want, when you pour it out, you can also, if you want to make two separate loaves, if you can be very careful without deflating it, you can cut it into half into two separate loaves. But once again, try to avoid deflating it. That's one of the big keys. You have to get used to handling this very, very gently. But you could take your bench scraper and cut it down the middle, and with another bench scraper, you could try picking it up and putting it on a separate baking sheet. I choose to have one big loaf. You can see why ciabatta is the Italian word for slippers. So it's time to get my ice ready, and then into the oven she's going to go. I'm going to spray it, drop my ice, and then put in the bread. I think we're going to go an initial half hour. I have to double check that. It's nice to have one of these sprayers. Hit that really well. Pop that into the oven, trying to be gentle. And then you can take your ice cubes, pour them right in. Alright, see you in about 20 minutes. We'll take an initial peek. Excited? It's been about 25 minutes. Ooh, that's, look at that. Look at that big baby. Ooh, nice and puffy. Let's add about 5 more minutes to it. I really have to say that looks pretty fantastic. So let's go ahead and pull it out. Total bake time about 45 to 50 minutes because, oh, I love that crust because it's a very big loaf. Boy, does that look good. I can't wait till tonight to give that a try. It's going to be fantastic. It's steaming away. Listen. Ah. Gonna be wonderful. You know what? I may put it in a couple more minutes just to let it get a little more brown over here. I'm going to kind of turn it a little. 5 more minutes did it wonders. It's uniformly crispy all the way around and really a thing of beauty. All that remains to be seen is how it's going to cut up. You know what? We'll know tonight. There's the final product, and I just had a tuna fish sandwich tonight that was absolutely amazing. Delicious, delicious, delicious. It's all about how you handle the ciabatta bread. Just get used to working with wet dough. Don't deflate all of the gas out of it, and you can have a beautiful, beautiful loaf too. Hey, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the bell for all notifications, and as usual, thanks so much everybody for being along.